with the Rules Committee today and offer an amendment to the legislation, which mirrors the amendment and the legislation that was offered by my friend Senator Mike Lee in the U.S. Senate. It is something that I believe is extremely important, that we have the ability to debate in the United States House. We have not had any hearing in the United States House, in the House Judiciary Committee, on this bill or on this amendment or the ability to debate it in full. We rushed this bill through in July, allegedly in some sort of emergency setting because of some words that Clarence Thomas penned. And so it was an emergency that we passed this in July. It clearly wasn't political. It was an emergency. And here we sit having no debate in the United States House Judiciary Committee, having had no serious debate on the floor of the House. And here we are again, about to have no serious debate in the House Judiciary Committee or no serious debate on the floor of the U.S. House. It'll be another perfunctory exercise in this body where we bring forward legislation that has enormous consequences, where we drop it on the floor of the House, and we say vote up or down, and then go give speeches. And that's what we'll do, and we'll jam it through. And this is why the House of Representatives is badly broken. So I'm going to offer the amendment. I know the result. You all know the result. It will get not only either voted down, I'm told it's going to be ruled out of order because it apparently has some, it is said to violate, I think, Rule 10A or whatever it is with respect to having an impact, and allegedly that has an impact with respect to deficits. As I read the rule, what I saw out of the CBO was that it would raise revenues but also have expenditures, but it doesn't actually say anything about having deficits, which is what the rule actually says. But I would only say to the committee that there is only one way that this could technically violate said rule is if it's effective. That's the only way, is if the amendment is adopted, is effective, and actually has damages as a result of the AG taking action and people bringing suit and getting damages. It's the only way that it can actually have a cost that would raise deficits. So think about that. We're going to block an amendment because it technically violates a rule with respect to deficits because it might be effective. I offer the amendment for a variety of reasons. Right now, as we know, the legislative branch has been neutral on the issue of same-sex marriage, at least as in terms of its stated position. Obviously, we have the Obergefell opinion. This bill barrels us into the space that's not actually being threatened, in my view. Obviously, my colleagues think that this is necessary because of the words penned by Justice Thomas. I heard my friend from Maryland discussing that it was necessary. But the reality is what Justice Thomas said was more questioning how the rights came into being, not the what. Justice Thomas, in fact, brought up the fact that it could be privileges and immunities instead of substantive due process. He brought up another number of ways he could get there, and this is hardly anything new by something that Justice Thomas has put out in his jurisprudence and his doctrines previously. This bill, as amended, in my view, does not adequately protect people who have closely held religious or moral beliefs from going about their own lives. In my view, for example, Section 6, which one of the members of the committee brought up as having offered some significant protections, is basically just stating a truism, that the Constitution exists and RFRA exists. But it does nothing to actually, in the end, protect all Americans from the sword that is being provided in this legislation. And I would also offer and remind the committee that this body passed legislation off the floor that did not have any of these religious liberty protections that the Senate added, which are limited and do not actually cover the gamut of the religious liberty that needs to be protected. The fact is, the House rushed it through with no hearings, sent it over with no religious liberty protections in the legislation, and still had the sword of the private rights of action. Kicked it to the Senate in a rush. The Senate then adds in, I think, half protections. And now, instead of having a robust debate here, perhaps going into the House Judiciary Committee and having a robust debate about how we can ensure protections for everybody, we're going to have it killed here on a technicality and, frankly, on the substance, even if it weren't for the technicality. And we won't even have a debate on the floor of the House for a full measure of robust religious liberty protections. in what universe is this the way we should be doing business? Indeed, people with closely held religious beliefs are not actually protected by this bill, in my view. It does nothing to protect, for example, Lori Smith and the 303 Creative case that are being argued right across the street today in the United States Supreme Court. Jack Phillips, known as the cake baker from Colorado. Dr. Andrew Fox in Austin, where I live, a volunteer fire department chaplain who was fired from a volunteer position for volunteering his views about traditional marriage and or about gender roles and boys swimming against girls, for example. We've seen the effects of laws like this in Finland, where a member of the parliament, Päivi Räsänen, a member of the parliament, was dragged through a court for sharing her beliefs about same-sex marriage 20 years ago on a pamphlet. This is coming to a theater near you, ladies and gentlemen, and this legislation, supposedly with religious liberty protections, is going to be the sword that is going to come after you. Because notwithstanding what my friend from Maryland just opined, it does not provide the robust protections that are necessary to ensure the full protections of the First Amendment to which we are due as citizens in this country. In fact, not only are these people not protected from the effect of the bill, but they will actually be targeted under this bill by trial lawyers in the Attorney General's office. Section 4B allows the AG to bring suit against any person who violates a right or claim rising from such a marriage while under the color of state law, a not defined term, and arising from such a marriage. What does that even mean? Section 4B allows any person to bring suit against another person for the same, even if people's religious beliefs had a suit brought against them and they won on the merits. We often see long and expensive suits ruin businesses and lives in the process. If we actually want to protect everyone's First Amendment rights, I believe we must pass the amendment that I'm offering here today. And if you think this amendment is superfluous, there's no reason not to put it forward for a vote and let the body decide. I don't see what the harm is in offering legislation and offering an amendment which would expand protections for religious liberty if our concern here, as the gentleman from Maryland said and others, is that we want to ensure that we've got protections for religious liberty. I appreciate the chairman giving me the time here today. I know it's late in the day because there was a longer panel, but I cannot for the life of me understand how we're going to take up such an important issue and never having gone through the House Judiciary Committee before actually debating it and now offering an amendment that is worthy of debate to ensure full protection of religious liberty for the American people and not have the ability to actually debate it here, frankly, even in rules, because it's going to get killed on a budget issue. And with that, I will yield back to the chairman.
Well, thank you.